More than a debate or even a measure of success and failure, understanding the conditions of production of the newest, most proximate Kochi Muziris Biennale, December 2012, March 2013, is important. And I would like to say that the question of success and failure would be almost redundant when something is launched for one thing and something which faces any number of problems and issues before even it's launched and while it is being conducted. So I think it is more relevant perhaps for all projects, but certainly for this project, to think in terms of the conditions of production in which it has taken place and what sort of lesson we draw from the kind of infrastructure that we have in India, which does cope or does not cope with any kind of new projection. Once staged, what are the meanings that accrue from the democratic mix of international and local viewers with diverse spectatorship? With diverse spectatorship, is there a better case for state support of contemporary art? Now, these are issues that some of you will not be sympathetic with, state support for contemporary art, and perhaps that needs to be discussed, but I think it should be certainly put on the table. Can publics in relation to large-scale, groundbreaking projects, such as this one, incite the art community into a discursive engagement with avant-garde art as a form of contextual combustion? Those who know me or my writing or my speaking will recognize many familiar words in that. Art community into a discursive engagement with avant-garde art as a form of contextual combustion. If you feel that these are not words or concepts that are applicable, then of course we can put them all up for discussion. But I would like to suggest that issues of state, issues of contemporaneity, issues of the historical conjuncture, issues of what can be stated at any given time within the infrastructures available and how those have to be transformed in order to be able to say other things are very important. In many senses, the Kochi Muziris Biennale both poses those, problematizes those, and we need to address that problematic as much as the organizers need to. We have with us Riaz Komu, who's one of the two co-curators, both Krishnamachari and Riaz Komu, conceived, launched, and conducted this extraordinary event. And I think he will speak for the way in which it was both conceived and the travail and the destiny of this project as it has come to be since the last couple of years and in this process, which has only very recently completed. What Riaz is going to do, Riaz, as you know, is, of course, you know him as an artist, and by now, because of the knowledge of this Kochi Muziris Biennale, you know him as a co-curator of this event. He is going to first show, very simply, without comment, 10-minute film which about the Kochi Muziris Biennale, and after that he'll speak for another 10-15 minutes.
Hello everyone. This is just going to show the glimpses of project. It covers almost 80% of the works in the film. Hello everyone again. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm not going to speak much about the works. I'm just going to again show some of the works, some of the stills. And I'm very happy to kind of show the slides along with I'm speaking because it kind of shares a kind of camaraderie with the artist. And I'm also considering the kind of time constraints we have. I'm going to speak to you this time around not merely as an artist who deeply enjoys making and supporting art, but also as a grassroots cultural activist, a term I realized in Kochi with a sincere team along with Mr. Bose Krishnamachari and other seniors with great wisdom, and with the help and blessings of hundreds of others who helped making the impossible possible. Yes, we feel a sense of accomplishment now that we have our own biennial behind us to look back at and criticize, debate over, and to think of different innovative ways of taking it further. Yes, I am happy of what we did to make the dream of India's first biennial, come true like many others. But I have no conceited arrogance of having done that. In fact, it was a lesson learned with humility as we faced the stones of annihilating criticism, contagious jealousy, contempt from the fraternity and skeptical media before artists, at art lovers from all over the world and people, especially local people of cosmopolitan Kochi, and the rest of the Kerala lapped up our humble efforts as a game changer. They helped dispel widespread pessimism and gave us the strength to stand up and take on the cultural czars living in sloth, intellectual poverty, and dishonesty, those status quoists who are still out there to malign us. I know I have used strong words here, but I'm using them to justify our work that some parochial, senile elements wanted to terminate in its embryonic stage itself. The witch hunt is still on, but dear friends, we are not tired of it, and we are not finished yet. I don't want to get into the details of experiences we have gone through and we are still going to face. Now, after several reviews and scrutinies, the government of Kerala has not only rejected all financial irregularity charges against us, but have also allotted very happily money to the tune of Rs 4 crore to pay the bills of most of what is incurred to make the biennial possible. Friends, all I want to tell you is that these cynics are still not gone, but I ignore them personally and I tell our team to be courageous and let them be what they are. The fact is they are shell-shocked by the great response India's first biennial has evoked, much to their anguish. Their misinformed campaigns have boomeranged. Dear friends, all I can say is that you are free to criticize us, but the lessons we have learned in the process have changed our lives. It has given us the strength to say no to things. It has given us the courage to defy. It has given us the inspiration to confront and fight to the finish. Before I get into the nuances of the Binale, let me put Kochi and Muziris into the context of our concept, which was cosmopolitanism and inclusiveness. Kochi has had multicultural, globalized society even before globalization and the idea of flat world came about. There couldn't have been a better space than Kochi for symbolic free speech, a space for expressions created and leveraged by the various social activist movements. Kochi is the confluence of heterogeneity, a city where more than 30 non-Malayali communities have, over the centuries, come to find refuge, trade, only to develop roots and integrate into the local society. It is to this shore that one would bring in practices of contrasting problems or adverse imagery with constructive imagery to create a force, specificity, confidence, and convictions, sometimes lacking in the more general, wishful, positive images. I believe biennials are about people and places. More than theorizing a practice, it throws open the possibilities of windows, possibilities for the winds to change, from every corner of the world, and it gives an opportunity to express their creative discourses before global audience. I also believe that a biennial is the best expression of a new narrative of contemporary Indian art context and a catalyst for infrastructural developments. Kochi fits the bill as a biennial host city in manifold ways with its rich cultural history. The biennial is not to be seen as an event but a socio-political art movement that makes interventions into many aspects in our society. The modern Indian society faces many socio-political challenges where religious fundamentalism often raises its ugly head. It is in this context that the biennial brings a solution of tolerance and cosmopolitanism drawn from its own past. The biennial offers a balm to the present society's many wounds, showing that art can give voice to many questions that have been silenced over the years. The biennial was a result of the efforts of artists from all over the world who understood the context and relevance of coming together to celebrate their own cultural affinities to this region. They understood the pulse of the people. The Biennale can change the way people look at art. By serving art to their curiosity, it has democratized contemporary art practice and taken into the people in the street. It was a Biennale walked into people. The new convert is an art lover. They are all asking, when is the next? Kochi was a natural choice. Kochi is a city that is content with its economic power, new face of emerging country, with its strong history, with its culture, with its religious tolerance. The mayor of Kochi officially declared it as a biennial city. It is not that Kochi needs a biennial to boost its economy or tout its pride, but on the other hand, a biennial in its shift to global south would find a place and a society like Kochi in the backdrop of Muziris. I think we were incredibly lucky to have a team that stood with us when we were in need, who believed in us when no one else did, and who worked for us when we had absolutely no money to continue. The passion that I saw in these people to come and work day and night without money, often eating only once a day, was very humbling. We had huge support from the art community across India, local residents, headload workers, unions, auto drivers, shopkeepers, homestay owners, and the entire city itself. It felt like they all wanted the biennial to be a success, even without knowing what exactly a biennale was. They were all invested in the future and believed that this would bring about an event to celebrate their heritage and live with pride. The artists who participated understood the context and relevance of this biennial and lent their support throughout the biennial, moral and financial, who all said that they just want to see this biennale happen. But even then, it was an enormous struggle. It was a struggle to keep the biennial running on a daily basis, and sometimes we were unable to meet even the smallest of expenses. But throughout all this, we were unwilling to give up. I would like to just give you some of the statistics. Kochi Muziris Biennale came to a close after welcoming almost 4 lakh visitors. And after being opened on the last consecutive date of the century 12-12-12 and scheduled to run until 13-3-13, Kochi Biennale was extended for 4 more days due to public demand. Over 15,000 people took advantage of these additional 4 days, with 93 artists from 23 countries exhibiting and performing in over 60 spaces across 14 sites for 90 uninterrupted days. Kochi Biennale became the largest exhibition of contemporary art to take place in India. New site-specific commissions made up more than 70% of the work, with many of the artists having traveled to Kochi to conduct research and survey sites for a year in advance. The universal appeal of Kochi Muziris Biennale, set it apart from contemporary art events of its kind, from art curators and historians, celebrities from all over the world, celebrities from the world of film, music, literature, to working professionals, local business owners, and school children. Everybody found something to relate at the biennial. Around 30,000 school children visited the exhibitions, and 1,600 students from local schools participated in children's biennial program, fulfilling the event's objective to reach out to a young audience. The higher education program that began before the start of the event gave hundreds of art students from around India and abroad the chance to come to Kochi for research trip to explore historical and present realities of Kochi and Muziris, to know more about contemporary art practices, explore the ideas of a collective, and to make art outside the confines of traditional gallery spaces and work with the site-specific issues and locality. Alongside the curated exhibition, the programs included several seminars, 29 talks, 15 collateral projects, and many cultural programs showcasing classical and folk music, traditional art forms, theater, and film festival curated by the renowned filmmaker Adur Gopalakrishnan. Street art appeared on the walls between venues throughout Fort Kochi, with 11 street artists commissioned by the Biennale and many more joining and finding spaces to paint murals and stencil works. Kochi Muziris Biennale is the first Biennale to participate and to be archived in its entirety by Google Art Project. Kochi Biennale Foundation believes not in creating an art event, but triggering a movement across the country to inspire, encourage, and support artists and develop infrastructure for art and culture. Darbar Hall in Ernakulam city is an example. Even before the Biennale was organized, the foundation made an architectural intervention and turned the Lalitha Academy-owned heritage structure into one of the best exhibition centers in the country, with climate control and airco lighting. International residency and exchange programs are already on the move. We are in talks with art organizations to offer residency programs. Pepper House, which was one of the venue of the Biennale, has already been given us as a venue for an international residency program, which will, we are turning that elegant property into one of the, hopefully it will become one of the center of art exercise in Kochi soon. The documentary film on Fort Kochi, as part of the BMW Urban Diagnostics project, is underway. I mean, Kochi is like one place which is, especially Fort Kochi, which has got kind of huge transformation economically. And as you walk into the bylines, you will see like completely a different kind of a Kochi exists there, which is actually kind of a residue of the transformation which has happened there. And another important thing which the Biennale Foundation is going to kind of undertake to bring art writers, curators, and scholars to Kochi is a program which we have designed called literary art festival designed called Annual Rings, a literary festival focusing on art and culture. It was an event inaugurated at the time of the Biennale. We plan to turn this into international annual gathering of writers and art and culture. We intend to celebrate the coexistence of literature and visual art and explore the realms of imagination where two creative streams going to merge. I'll just continue, just showing these images. This is Valsant Kurma Paleri. This is Prasad Raghavan, based in Delhi. This is Amanullah Mujahidi. This is Subodh. Just some of the pictures from the seminars and talks which we did. This was an image from we commemorated Krishna Kumar's death anniversary at the Biennale. There's some of his very close friends like Raghunathan, Prabhakaran, and Jyoti Basu, and Raman Shlama. This is one project which attracted quite a lot of attention, like the Children's Biennale project. This is another intervention we did at a place called Goethe-Institut, which had a completely different kind of a history. We incorporated, and we actually almost engaged in that society, and did this revival of Chavuttu Nadagam, and also did a seminar which lasted for 3 days. This is another intervention we did in Mathilagam, where we introduced Chilapadigaram festival, which will happen every year. It will be conducted by Mathilagam Gram Panchayat. This is the pepper house, which most of you must have seen. This is where we are going to invite another set of people to Kochi, and we are also planning to kind of associate with institutions, publishers, to come down, and mainly it will focus on literature on contemporary art. Because knowing the interest among people in Kerala, it will be a kind of a best educational mode which we can take to develop the interest people have towards contemporary art. Thank you so much.
Gauda and Divan Sundram, and then Gayatri Sinha and Shiva Chachi, speaking about both the work. Sheila and Divan will speak about working within Aspen Wall in Fort Kochi, and Shiva and Gayatri speaking about the itineraries that were tracked across Fort Kochi and the spectatorial charge that they experienced. I formulated it in a certain way. I suggested that participants are invited to discuss how the Biennale offered site imaginaries in view of a predetermined concept, and an exhibitionary poetics largely activated by participating artists. And I want to suggest by this that the site of Kochi by itself, and a term that Ghulam Sheikh used, that the Biennale located in peninsular India rather than in the heart of the cities which would normally expect to stage it, has changed entirely the geographical location of how you plot contemporary art in India, and that it speaks from peninsular India to the rest of the global south, which is of course an entity we have been talking about politically and geographically for a very long time now in terms of the mapping of the world in cultural and artistic terms. The particular point I wish to make by suggesting that it did not have a predetermined concept is not of the kind that we were discussing this morning in relation to Caroline's declarative stance. No concept. That was, of course, as we discussed towards the end of the morning session, it was a rhetorical position. Here, this was not by any means stated as a rhetorical position, that there is no declared concept. I think it had to do very largely with the fact that these were two artists who had initiated the Biennale, and whereas I have been on this quite understandably, being myself a critic and curator, I've been on the side of exhibitions being curated not by artists necessarily or primarily, but by art historians, critics, curators, because of a certain kind of discursive frame in which it could be put. And I think that I was very pleasantly and duly corrected. There are ways of curating which are very different from the way curatorial conceptualizing takes place. And even if it is by default that happens, even if it is because of the site or because of the cultural imaginary that is released in a site and within a certain moment of history, I think that becomes by default, but in a process of production, the concept of the exhibition. And it seemed to me that the artists themselves gave themselves concepts which curiously configured into a very amazingly coherent exhibition, which was what was surprising. And that's why I say that we can talk in terms of nights the day shows, obviously were attributed to them, is an extraordinary experience, and I stand very hugely corrected in terms of what a curatorial concept may or may not be, or at least open to options, and it might be so with others as well. I use the word exhibitionary poetics, largely activated by artists, and I want to emphasize the poetics here because this was in some ways an exhibition that did not, from the start, didn't position itself in political terms. And the whole entire morning, this morning, and the afternoon as well, we have spoken as much about the politics of transcultural exhibitions as about the poetics. The poetics underlies almost every part of the discussion we had today, or every part of the exhibition that we admire. But because this was in some way the minimum that was holding together the exhibition, the Poetic Museum Biennale, because this was in some ways a manifestation of arte popera in a large scale, in a whole city, in Fort Kochi. I think that the poetics needs to be brought out, and I hope that in fact, one more point before I finish, and I won't take any time in concluding comments. I want to suggest that there is a difference between finding spaces, which is the great contribution that these two artist curators made, is to find the spaces which have nothing equivalent has been found in India for staging artwork. So they found the spaces, they offered them to the artists, did not put any constraints, and the artists virtually did what they liked. And the relationship then of sight to production to the manifest affect of that work had a very different set of coordinates working for it. And I would suggest that it is very different from the equivalent that takes place to public art projects. Public art is a different concept. It is a different proposition. It asks for an interventionist relationship between a city and the artist. It asks for a certain kind of political positionality particularly within cities, because public art is very often staged within clearly defined metropolitan coordinates, unless of course it is very decidedly staged in landscape formats. And I think that the fact that we've had important public art projects, not least from Code, which is the leading institution, to have brought the concept and then as the infrastructure and the proposition of public art within the Indian contemporary art context. I think that the kind of sight and production and affect that we are speaking of in Kochi is of a different nature, so that we do now have the opportunity to compare the ways in which space and sight and production and its articulation are possible within our very poorly funded, poorly organized infrastructural possibilities which still completely elude our the ability for us to produce anything of the scale which Riaz and Bose and the team alongside have managed to do. I invite now, who's coming first? Who's got the thing put up there? Vivan or Sheila?
No, I mean, whoever you ask, we can put it.
I will ask that.
I think what I have to say probably repeats many of the issues that were stated earlier, but my language is far more simple and straightforward. So I'm going to just read from the paper I've written, and I have a set of images that I will show if there is some time. Otherwise, I'll stop at this. The invitation to participate in a biennale within India was one that I could not refuse in spite of my reluctance to participate in yet another one. Having shown in 8 biennales, I have observed that curatorial concepts are rather open-ended, a generosity towards its interpretation. It seems a necessary stance taken to accommodate artists with very different sensibilities and concerns, and many commissioned works unseen by the curators themselves. A curator's knowledge of artists and their work is not unlimited. So it has come to be that they also work within known circles and sometimes from chance encounters with artworks in their area of passage or through a breathless touring of countries. It is humanly impossible to look at all artists in all countries. Curators in these countries themselves do not go out of their safety zones of operation. In countries that have what is called organized art system, they rely on major galleries, private collections, museums, which also have their own circuits to source names and works for the biennale they are curating. The curator's ability to perceive theoretical frameworks, to understand the context and intrinsic potential of works to trigger thoughts or affects is crucial. And inclusion can give a curatorial enterprise a reputation or disreputation. The curatorial thought for the Kochi Biennale, I think,